don't have to look very hard to see that St. John, New Brunswick is a manufacturing hub, an energy hub, and an export hub. Known as the port city and the oldest incorporated city in Canada, St. John sends 96.3% of its exports to the U.S., and that's given it a new title, most tariff-vulnerable in Canada. Population roughly 78,000, it's an hour's drive to the U.S. border. It's also home to the largest oil refinery in the country, a pulp and paper mill, an aquaculture corporation.
Well, welcome to our brew house. This is where the magic happens.
And the largest and oldest independent brewery in Canada. Started in 1867, it's as old as Canada itself, employing 300 people nationwide.
How much time do you spend thinking about these tariffs these days?
More than I would like. More than I would like.
Moosehead Breweries exports 20% of its beer to the U.S., but an even bigger concern is the U.S. tariffs and Canadian counter-tariffs on aluminum.
So once the tariffs went into place, the price of aluminum jumped by about 15%.
The company buys 100 million aluminum cans a year.
A lot of the aluminum that goes in those cans comes from Canada, but the material that the cans are made out of, what they call the aluminum roll, mostly comes from the U.S. So we get caught up either way. And then, of course, if we send a finished can back to the U.S., we get tariffed again.
What did you think when you saw that headline that said St. John is the most vulnerable city in the country?
Well, it certainly got my attention. And as I thought about it some more, it started to make sense.
Here's why it makes sense. Using new local data from Statistics Canada covering the country's 41 largest cities, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce developed a U.S. Tariff Exposure Index. On the index, cities in the top right corner are tariff hotspots. They have a high export intensity, meaning they export more to the U.S. as a share of their local GDP, and they're more dependent on the U.S. as a key export destination. St. John is far ahead of Calgary in second place. But what do both of those cities have in common? Oil.
This is an energy hub, and energy is a really big part of Atlantic Canadian exports, and certainly a lot of those are destined for the United States.
According to the Chamber of Commerce, the Irving Oil Refinery alone can process more than 320,000 barrels of crude daily, with more than 80% of that exported south of the border.
We're so integrated with the New England states. I think there's a lot more to the analysis than just saying, are we the most exposed? Because there aren't necessarily readily available alternatives for all these energy products.
The Canadian Chamber of Commerce says it examined the most tariff-vulnerable cities in the country to provide evidence and analysis for communities, businesses, and policymakers, hoping to inform discussions about how Canada can best respond to the significant challenge posed by U.S. tariffs.
Hi, Kayla, Donna.
To better understand how the city of St. John is responding, we're visiting the mayor.
You've been busy. I have been busy.
How are things?
Well, it's interesting times, as they say.
Here's the thing about Donna Reardon. She likes being in the background, getting things done. It hasn't exactly gone that way.
This is The Daily Show.
A comment she made on CBC News landed her on American late-night television.
Donna Reardon, the mayor of St. John in New Brunswick, maybe you have a good analogy.
I mean, we've been in this comfortable relationship with our American cousins, and now we're being attacked. So, we're breaking up with the U.S., and it's time to move on.
Yeah, we're cousins, but we're breaking up.
Oh, well, that was funny.
She's a good sport about the comedy, but she's had it with President Donald Trump.
I don't think we want to try to fix it. I don't want to try to fix our relationship with the U.S. I feel that's broken.
How much of all of this is informing how you will think about a federal election?
Oh, big time.
What are you watching for?
I'm watching for strategies. I'm watching for leadership. I want to know that, that there is a concrete vision.
And she says her city can be part of the solution, specifically the Port of St. John.
If Canadian exporters should be so compelled, we have a wonderful opportunity to get your product to North Europe or the Mediterranean, for example.
These containers are filled with everything from frozen fish and French fries to clothing and furniture.
All of this potash has taken a 5-day rail journey from Saskatchewan.
Potash is a key component in fertilizer. The Port of St. John ships 1.2 million tons of it a year to markets in Europe, Brazil, West Africa, and Southeast Asia.
We think it's a wonderful example of, kind of an Eastern Atlantic Canadian port helping service an industry in central Canada, getting it to global markets.
And he says the port has capacity to ship even more. Back at the brewery, they're also trying to stay positive. They've created the Presidential Pack, a crate of 1,461 beers.
Enough to get you through a full U.S. presidential administration.
But Olin says the impact to his business is no joke. He's also chair of the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters Board of Directors and recently spent some time on Capitol Hill.
What was the tone of those conversations?
I think it was very respectful. I think it was broadly empathetic to our situation.
But empathy won't save jobs or protect industries, leaving those in this most vulnerable city still wondering what comes next as the trade war rages on.